Hello, welcome back to the show. I'm DarcyBits. Today we are continuing Praetors of Enchanted Ice. Frozen Bridges Between Worlds. Our third set in our three-set block. Oh! I'm excited. We're moving into our blue cards today, and let's just jump into them. I don't want to belabor the point. I always waste too much time. I'm hoping to get blue and black done, so let's get started. Mask of Shadows is a 1-mana blue instant. Mask of Shadows deals 1 damage to target creature. That creature gains Shroud until end of turn, meaning it can't be the target of spells or abilities. That is super cool. So you could use this to protect one of your things, but you could also use it to, like, stifle an effect that your opponent plays, right? Because normally it's like, oh, you'll give your own things hexproof when your opponent is, like, trying to kill them. But since it gives it Shroud, you could give your opponent stuff Shroud so that they can't target them. Ooh, this card's cool. This feels very blue, actually. Not the, like, damage to gain hexproof. That's, like, not really that blue. But, like, I remember playing a lot of Limited where I'm having a great game, and then Blue's like, oh yeah, my thing's got hexproof for 1 mana, and I'm like, what? No, don't do that. But this is cool. I like this. Some shapeshift into such grace and beauty that their very forms blur the lines between good and evil. Sorin Markov Assassin. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's rad. I'm into it. That's really funny. A janis Apprentice. Okay, I don't know if a Johnny's been established in this canon. Like, we always have to view our AI sets as sort of as separate. Like, it's such a... everything's different. Nothing is consistent with canon magic, so, you know. Is a Johnny different in this setting? I don't know. A Johnny's Apprentice is a 2-mana blue 2/2 Drake with flying. When a Johnny's Apprentice enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named A Johnny's Chosen. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. I mean, that's just... That's cool. That's good. She is not a pawn. She is the game. What? Oh, yeah. They're not the pawn. They're the game. Alright. Yeah, okay. I'm into it. That's really good. Is a Johnny's Chosen a real card? If it is, that's interesting. In the context of our set, that's irrelevant. We're not going to see a Johnny's Chosen. It's a 2-mana 2/2 with flying. That's good enough. That's already very strong. So adding in this draw a card effect, cool. That's interesting. Makes it more powerful in other formats, but in our format, it's just a 2-mana 2/2 flyer. So that's kind of interesting, actually. You know how sometimes in Limited, there's this thing where, like, you have these cards that would never see play in Constructed, but in Limited they're good because you have less options. It's Limited. The idea of having a card that is strong and limited, like a 2-mana 2/2 flyer, which couldn't compete in Constructed, so it has an extra tag on it that's only relevant in Constructed. Like, that's actually really interesting. The idea of saying, like, okay, we're making this set, we know it's going to be in a standard with this other set, so it can tutor a card from the other set. Meaning in Limited, it's just a 2-mana 2/2 flyer, but in Constructed, you can use it to draw this card from a previous... Like, that's actually kind of cool. That's like an interesting way about... Anyway, I'm going off. I should, yeah. This card's cool. I like this card. I kind of want to look up if Johnny's Chosen's a real card, but I don't want to, like, slow down for that. So let me know in the comments, I guess. Prowling Orbweaver is a 4-mana blue 2/2 spirit. Whenever Prowling Orbweaver attacks, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Interesting. So, in white, we saw I think it was a 4-mana 3/3 that gets +2/+2 if it gets blocked. Whereas this is a 4-mana 2/2, so it's worse. but it gets that bonus when it attacks. It's still just worse than a 4-mana 4/4, though, and I feel like... Weirdly, I kind of want to keep this. Just because I don't want to be re-rolling things all the time. I talked about this in the last video, but also, and also in the last video I was talking about how, like, I think while overall the set's not going to necessarily be lower power level, there's some stupid broken cards that we saw in white. I want to maybe let through more lower power level cards just to, like, have them in the mix for the limited environment. I think that's interesting. And I think there are some cards that care about spirits, so that might be enough of an upside to make this, like, playable, even if it's not exciting. They had chosen to pursue it, and the good that would come from that choice, even at the cost of all else. Okay. Nah, not super exciting, but that's okay. Corrosive Fog is a 4-mana blue instant. Exile target non-land permanent. Flashback for generic blue. Wow, that's really good. 4-mana, instant speed removal. So more expensive than a murder. But it exiles, and it hits any non-land permanent, not just creatures. In addition, you can flash it back. I mean, that's pretty good. Now, it's not too good for our AI Magic. Like, I do intend to play this block in the, like, 2 packs from set 1, 2 packs from set 2, 2 packs from set 3, like, sealed. Like, some kind of limited thing where you have multiple, like, packs from each set in the block when we actually finally get to playing it. So I know what's in the past 2 sets, and we let some stupid... some really broken removal spells through. I don't think this is too strong. Really good, though! Holy crap! The Vast has yet to engulf the endless wasteland of Thamar. Ooh, Thamar. But the skies themselves already rest in perpetual twilight. The Vast. Is the Vast a faction? Is it a thing? Is it a like, meteorological event? Oh, that's some good flavor text right there. I like that one. That is excellent. Pyromancer Elite. Excuse me, this is a blue card. 3 mana for a 2/1 enchantment creature human wizard. Pyromancer Elite can't be blocked. Okay. For 2 mana, tap target creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Other than the name, I really like this card. 3 mana, 2/1 that can't be blocked. Okay, yeah, totally, great. Solid card, very blue, works. For an additional 2 mana, as many times as you want, you can tap down creatures. That's probably too strong, but it's not like you're killing them. Alright, it's very powerful. I like it. I just wish it wasn't called Pyromancer Elite. If it was Cryomancer Elite, it would be perfect. It's literally freezing targets. That's like what you call it when you tap something down for an extra turn, right? I think? I need fire to stay warm. Let the cold burn away. Okay, there's something interesting about that, right? We've seen in this set, this entire block, I should say, the idea that every faction cares about heat because the world is frozen, the world is cold, so heat is important to everyone, not just red, right? And the idea of a blue card that's like, I'm going to use the fire here to... Maybe it's like, I'm going to absorb the fire from you so that you freeze and I stay warm or something. Maybe it's that kind of pyromancy, where it's like, I control fire in a way that makes you freeze. You don't see people use pyromancy in that way much, but yeah, sometimes that's on theme. I don't know. I think it's interesting. There's something to be said for that. Crystalline Pathfinder is a 1-mana 1/1 Merfolk Rogue. Okay. Have we seen many Merfolks in this set and or block? Because I feel like merfolks would have kind of a rough time in an ice-themed set. For blue and tap, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Oh! Okay. For blue, a tap and tap, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay, so how do I feel about this? This card's really good. It's a 1-mana 1/1 that you can spend a blue to tap it to give something else for a strike. That's very strong. Just like double something's power. Kind of. Like, okay, that's a lot. And then it has a second ability, which just can't be used ever. It doesn't make sense. It does not function. You can't do it, right? So, other than that one Unfinity card that lets you bank tap as a resource and then you can spend it on tap effects or something, like, that would be the only thing, but let's ignore that. So, we could just say, yeah, this ability exists. You literally can't activate it, so it can't actually break anything. It just is dead text. Maybe that's fine. Maybe it's okay to leave those on cards. I like to generally think that it is okay. At the end of the day, we are playing AI Magic. It's okay for cards to get a little silly, as long as they're still playable. So, cool. That's fine. I do remember that also there was a whole thing. I remember hearing somebody talk, I think it was Mark Rosewater, about trying to add a mechanic called double tapping, where you'd like tap a card and then tap it again, and it would be like upside down instead of just horizontal or 90 degrees, and it would untap halfway or something. And that mechanic eventually became Exert, which is when you may tap this, and when you do, you may choose to exert it. If you exert it, it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, right? That whole thing. So it effectively double taps it. So you could easily see people being like, oh, this would be kind of cool if this was a double tap effect, right? If this was exert. 2 tap symbols, just a shorthand for exert or something. That's totally reasonable. That's a thing. Not how the game actually works, though. You wouldn't actually make that ruling. You could, like, you know, if you want to just, like, make up rulings on the table, sure. But my goal, is to have cards that you throw down at anyone and will be like, oh yeah, I understand how this works. Like, that's fine. I guess not anyone. Sometimes you do need a judge in the room. I don't know how every card works, but It's easy to have a consensus, is the point. Either way, from a power level standpoint, is this too strong? Probably, but, like, you do need a creature. It's, I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's too strong. But it is a 1/1 body. Like, it's not hard to remove. So maybe it's okay. I don't know. I think I'll keep it. I think it's fun. I think it feels, like, flavorfully interesting. It's a cool merfolk rogue ability. I like it. This town has seen worse than snow in the summer. Kessig Trapper. Ooh, that's a really good line. Vagrant Skulk is a 3-mana, 2/1 human pirate with flash and vigilance. Whoa, this is just such a cool little clean common card. Just, yeah. It's a 3-mana 2/1 with flash and vigilance. That's it. Alright. Cool. Yeah. I don't know. I also like Vagrant Skulk feels really good. Like, it's just like, it's like this pirate, and of course the pirates are vagrants. They don't have homes. They don't have a permanent address. Like, hooded and guttering candles were part of the initiation rite. You can probably guess what it means to be a masterless man. Observations of a boggart. Sacred Foundry. You remember Sacred Foundry. It's a 3-mana blue enchantment with 4-mana, tap, exile the top card of your library. Return it to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. Huh. That's such a weird way of, like, wording that. Just because, like, you'd think it would be like, put it into the battlefield. But, like, return is such a weird word in Magic. It feels like they should have oracled return out of just, like, every spell, because it doesn't really make sense. Something doesn't have to have been on the battlefield to be able to return to the battlefield, right? But cards that return things from your graveyard to the battlefield are worded that way. If you are returning something from Exile to the battlefield, does that also make sense? Sure, why not? So what is this? This is 4 mana and tap to cheat the top thing off your deck into the battlefield. It doesn't matter if it is, like, what it is, as long as it is not like an instant or sorcery, right? Anything that's a permanent would work. Otherwise, it would go to the graveyard, I believe. I think this is probably too expensive. I like it, though. Like, it's a cool card. It's the kind of card that, if was printed in real Magic, people would be like, this card's really interesting, I want to make it work, and they try and build around it, and it doesn't work, but they had a good time. Like, it serves a purpose, even if it's not strong enough to actually be good, and I think that's okay. I think that's a good part of sets. Sets should have cards like that. I mean, I'd rather they be good, because that's more fun for the person who's trying to this janky thing, but I don't know, it's cool. I like it. It's fun. I love cheating things into the battlefield, so it's, yeah. But if you just made a deck that had only permanents, which is easy enough to do, sometimes you'll hit, like, a land, and that's not super exciting, but, like, okay. Yeah. That's fine. And it's the beginning of the next end step, too. So if you know, activate this on your opponent's, during your opponent's second main phase, then it would come back on your, on their end step, and then it wouldn't even have summoning. There it goes, right? So there's no window of time when your opponent can deal with it. I guess there is, because you couldn't wait until your opponent's end step. You'd have to do it in their second main phase. Because if it was your opponent's end step that you activated, it wouldn't show up until your end step the next turn, so there is like a window of time you can deal with it, but because it would show up beginning, next end step. I mean, yeah, there is a window of time you could deal with it, but it's the same window of time as if you'd cast it on the end step, because that's when it's appearing. It still is limiting, though, because you could only interact with it at instant speed. I like it. It's cool. It's very expensive, and it's got a level of randomness to it. If you scry the top of your deck, you can fix that, which is fun. I mean, it's a cool way for blue to cheat something into the battlefield, because it rewards blue for scrying, which is something that blue wants to do. I'm sure I've mentioned before, my favorite kind of blue is big blue. Like, I don't really like counter magic. I don't care for a lot of blue shenanigans, but I love their big dumb creatures. In a way that I don't like green's big dumb creatures. I'm stupid. I'm a dumb Magic player. Don't listen to anything I say. Aurelia entrusted her church's protection to the safety of those willing to do her bidding. That makes sense. Acromas Memorial. Ooh, that's a great name. A lot of, like, really solid, like, first takes in this set so far. Or in this, like, video. White was all over the place. Acromas Memorial is a 2-mana blue enchantment. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may put a counter on Acromas Memorial. What type of counter? A counter of any type? Do I just make up... Do I just be like, I'll put a lifelink counter on it. I'll put an indestructibility counter. What type of counter do I put on it? Remove 2 mana counters from Acromas Memorial. Draw a card. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this card. The wording is wrong because it says you may put a counter on Acromas Memorial. If it said mana counter, though, let's just pretend it says mana counter for a moment. 2 mana. Then your opponent has their turn. They have their upkeep. You get a mana counter. Your turn happens, goes back to them. Now there's 2. You may now remove those 2 mana counters to draw a card. So, what is this? This is every 2 turns, draw a card. Is that good? For 2 mana, I think it probably is. Like, if we think about cards that let us draw an extra card every turn, they're pretty expensive. They're like 4, 5, 6 mana enchantments that just kind of sit there and that's kind of all they do. Some of them they even have like special conditions that they need to be able to be activated, right? I'm thinking of like, there's like a green one that I remember from Arena where, you know, as long as you're controlled like a creature of 5 or hit right or toughness or something like that, maybe power, you can get an extra draw at the beginning of your turn, stuff like that. And having something that comes down on turn 2 but does half the effect, that's a really elegant way of doing it. I don't know. I think there's potential here. But I gotta ask myself, I don't have to ask myself, is this strong enough? That's not relevant. I don't care if this is strong enough. It's a cool effect. It's fine. What I have to ask myself is, are we going to interpret this as you may put a mana counter on Acromas Memorial? Because that's not the default interpretation, right? I was just talking about how I want you to be able to play a card and have everyone at the table go, oh yeah, I get that, even if it doesn't technically make sense, right? Sometimes we're going to fudge the rules because things don't technically make sense, and it's AI magic. You can sort of imagine how it would be edited so that the templating is accurate, but it still functions. It's still fine. No one's like confused about how it should work, right? Here, someone could just as well say, oh yeah, this lets me put any kind of counter on Acromas Memorial. Okay. Well, let's pretend that's the case, too. Let's pretend it can put any kind of counter on Acromas Memorial. Is that stronger? Well, turn 1, you could give it an indestructibility counter. But otherwise, what counters can it have that are relevant? Does it matter that it can have any kind of counter put on it? So, I think I'm going to keep this. I don't know. I'm really torn. I'm really torn on this one. Because it's such an interesting little... Neither interpretation feels that significantly different. So if you came to the table and you said, I've got this card, do you think I get to put any type of counter, or do you think I get to put a mana counter? And your opponent goes, mana counter. You'd be like, cool, fine, still worth playing. You can put any kind of counter. Cool, it'll get indestructible the first time, and then mana counters from there on, right? Fine. Like, either way, not a hugely different outcome. But someone could also say, oh, that card just doesn't work. It says put a counter on it. It doesn't tell you what type, so just doesn't function, and you have to re-roll it, right? So I really don't know. I don't know what to say about this one. I think I need to re-roll it, but I really like it. We were once 2 halves of the same body, connected by an ineffable chain of faith. Chandra Nalar. Alright, let's keep it. Let me know in the comments if you think I should have re-rolled this one. I think most of you are on board with this type of shenanigan. But yeah, it's just, yeah, you know, at the end of the day, we're playing AI Magic. You're gonna have some weird stuff in here. We got to be okay with it. I think that's the only way that you can do it. Sometimes that's what you got to do. Snow Shrieker. Is that a real creature? That sounds so familiar. Snow Shrieker is a 6 mana 3/4 blue illusion creature. It has flying and tap, add colorless. It's a 6 mana 3/4 with flying. Not very good. Tap to add colorless. At 6 mana, that's not very good. Nah, I'm just going to throw this one again. I love illusions. They're so cool, but nah. A magic arrow sent into the hearts of winter-weary revelers, where it set the mood for a magical soiree. Illusions are best when the narrative is like, I made the illusion of a dragon and it beat the crap out of you, and it was way cheaper than a real dragon, because summoning a dragon is hard, but making an illusion is easy, right? But then it has some drawback, like when it gets targeted by a spell, it goes away, right? Like, That's when illusions are cool, but they really got to like play design-wise into their narrative, and this just doesn't. I almost just scrolled on. I need to actually reroll this card. Frozen Wisp is a 6-mana 3/3 spirit with flying. For 3 mana, target creature gains Shroud until end of turn. Okay, I think that's worth 6 mana. I think you did it. Good job. That is strong. That's quite strong. We talked about this earlier with that other card, where you can even target your opponent's stuff so that they can't buff their thing, right? So it's not just, like, it being Shrouds and Hexproof is relevant, and I think that's really cool. Yeah, no, this is great. This is a cool card. Expensive, but I think, like, understandably so. Like, it should be expensive. Yeah, no, great. Some will call it a wisp, a vapor, a memory of snow and wind and ice. Some will see a dark presence that creeps and stirs in its wake. This is awesome. I'm really happy with it so far. Blue especially. Blue has been so good. Molten Ruin is a 3-mana blue instant. Molten Ruin deals 2 damage to target creature. Target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party. Huh. So party just isn't a mechanic in this set or in the block. There's some wizards, there's some clerics. I don't remember any warriors, but there might be. There's more soldiers, right, instead of warriors. There's a couple rogues. There's a few rogues. It's weird seeing just, like, on its own. It's not, like, a mechanic that feels... Like, it's such a weird mechanic. It's not, like, a keyword, but, like, it is a keyword, but I don't know. Either way, what is this? 3 mana, deal 2 damage to a creature. A different creature, or the same one, but whatever. Adds -/-. Okay. It's a cool spell. If you have 2 things in your party, this is like 2 damage and an additional -2. Which will kill a lot of things. It's instant speed, 3 mana. Sometimes this is relevant in that, like, a kill spell won't get around indestructible, for example. But minus will. So if you knock something down to, like, 1 health. That's actually kind of cool. If something was indestructible and had 2 health, you hit it for 2, it goes to 0 but doesn't die, and then you minus it and it does? Is that how that works? Huh. That's kind of cool, though. I kind of like the idea of staggering damage and minus. It could just be -4, but whatever. Yeah, X could just be members of your party plus 2, but either way. It's cool. No, I like it. The farthest reaches of the Iron Realm have become aflame. Right, a lot of this, like, fire theme in blue. Weird. Obanzai in chat says, party sounds like it could be a mechanic in the Dungeons and Dragons expansion. Yeah, if you don't know party is... I feel like it's from, like, Ikoria or something. I don't remember what it's from. You know, let me know if you feel like it. But it is a mechanic that does exist in... It does exist in Magic. It means for... You either have a creature a creature type in your party or you don't. It doesn't matter how many instances of one type you have. And the types are Rogue, Warrior, Wizard, Cleric. And I feel like I forgot something. Oh well. Point is, it's weird that it wasn't in the Dungeons & Dragons set, but when they made the second Dungeons & Dragons set, I think they did make party mechanic, if I recall correctly. Or maybe it was the Commander tie-in set. But yeah, for some reason when they did the Dungeons & Dragons, they just, like, didn't do it, so I don't know what was up with that. But yeah, it is a real mechanic, and it's cool. It's kind of awkward to, like, make work. And it's, like, weird that it doesn't include things like warlocks and druids don't count. Like, it's just, like, a certain 5. I don't know. It's weird. It's very weird. But, like, thanks for asking. I always, like, I should talk about these things more. I know my audience is like, not only is it crossover with Magic, it's also, there's so much in Magic that you don't have to not know Magic to still not know some things, right? So it's always worth repeating things, so thank you for that. Boros Parlay is a 2-mana blue instant. Boros Parlay deals 2 damage to target creature. If you control a Boros permanent, with power 4 or greater, Boros Parlay deals 3 damage to that permanent. So, this is a cool card. If this was a red-white card, and it just said, like, a red-white permanent, or something like that, this would be a cool card, right? It's 2 mana to do 2 damage to a creature, or 5 damage, because it doesn't say 3 damage instead, right? So, that's kind of an interesting range of damage available. We've seen this before in other cards. I think it was a completely different set. I don't think it was in the block at all, but where the AI would say, like, if you have a Golgari permanent, and it just didn't explain what that meant, right? In the verbiage of Magic, that would mean having the subtype Golgari, which is not a real thing, or in this case, Boros. But in the parlance of players, right? In the parlance of players, a Boros card is a card that is red and white. So it would be kind of cool to see something that says, like, if you control a red or white permanent, which could also say Boros and mean the same thing, kind of like how mill means put a card from the top of your library into your graveyard, which what originally was player slang and not an actual keyword. Like, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think you should make all your players know what Boros and Golgari and stuff mean. I still don't know the 3, like the 3 color combos. I'm not gonna learn them. I know like 3 or 4 of them, and then I know the ones from New Capenna because I'm a baby. But in this case, this card does not actually work, and we're gonna reroll it. Sorry, that was a long way to get to. I'm not actually keeping this card, but I like the concept of something that cares about controlling a red or white permanent. When Boros discovered this was a route, he hiked the rest. Anax, Strega, and Thrall. Even if it did say a red or white permanent, that's a lot. That's like forcing you to have 3 colors because this is a blue spell. Yeah. Improvise is a 2-mana blue instant. Tap up to 3 target creatures, draw a card. This is... okay, I think there might be a card called Improvise. That sounds like a blue card already. I think that probably exists. But this is like a really good, like, merging of mechanics and narrative. Like, I think this is a really solid effect here. Just, you're saying, like, we're gonna sort of delay our opponent for a bit and draw a new card, right? We're gonna be like, okay, we gotta, like, figure something out on the spot, slow your opponents down for 1 turn, draw a new card, and hope we can figure it out next turn. Like, it's really good. The Giant's initial concerns over a cold future have been relieved by Zendikar's chill magic. I can't read that in a way that it means chill other than, like, cool, man. like, you wouldn't call it chill magic. You'd call it, like, frost magic or snow magic or ice magic. Chill magic only means, like, yeah. Alright, I gotta move on. Vidalcan Mentor. Is it a Vidalcan? It is a Vidalcan. Nice. Vidalcan Mentor is a 1-mana, 1/1 enchantment creature Vidalcan wizard. As long as Vidalcan Mentor is enchanted, other Vidalcan wizards you control have flying. Okay. Also, it has tap, add white or blue. This card's great. This card's already a really strong mana dork in a color, like, it's just like better than a Llanowar Elves, which is already really strong, because it's a 1-mana 1/1 that taps for 1 of 2 different colors, so it's just a better version at that point. And then it has this if it's enchanted. I like this for a few reasons, because we've seen that a lot in this set. Not so much in the block as a whole. It's here or there in the block, but so far in the set, we've seen actually a lot of cards that care about when things are enchanted. Not, like, modified, like in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, where it like counters counted, specifically Enchanted. We've seen this a number of times. But also, it cares about the Dalkin wizards specifically. Like, that's such a specific thing. It's like in Gods of Winter when we saw something that cared about core soldiers. Not just core, not just soldiers, but core soldiers. And, well, we made an entire set around core because we wanted to see some core soldiers. But this is the third set in the block, so it's too late to get some Vidalcan wizards, and I don't think we've even seen any other Vidalcan in the entire block, let alone Vidalcan wizards. It's possible. The thing is, this doesn't need to be strong. Like, this doesn't have to be activated to be good. You could, A, have multiple Vidalcan mentors, and as long as one of them is enchanted, all of yours have flying except for itself. That's cool. You know, whatever, that's fine. It's not amazing because they're 1/1s, but yeah, it's something. But it's already just a good card. It's a 1-mana 1/1 that taps for white or blue. That's great. And it harkens back to what I was saying earlier about how I kind of like the idea of cards that are stronger in Constructed than they are in Limited, because Limited has a lower power level, so they don't need to be as strong. Like, there's something interesting about that, and I'm into it. I think it's cool. We won't hold you to this promise. It's just a formality. I have every intention of keeping it. I feel like they're contradicting themselves, but, like, whatever. Like, it functions. That almost feels like two different lines. Like, someone's like, oh, no, don't worry. It's just a formality. We're not really promising anything. And the person's like, I'm gonna hold myself to my promise. But that's not really what they said. Life's Way is a 6-mana blue sorcery. Return all creatures your opponents control to their owner's hands. Yeah. Okay. I was, like, as soon as I read the mana cost and the card type, I was like, 6-mana sorcery? Is the AI going to be able to do it? This is a Wrath, right? Instead of 5 mana to destroy everything, it's 6 mana. It only hits your opponents, but they don't die, they go to their hand. And it's sorcery speed, so you can't do it at instant and make your opponent, like, discard all of them or something like that. Like, they still will have a turn to play them out. This is good. I like this. This is like a really solid blue Wrath. I prefer the carefree aspect of just this once. I know the sacrifice, and I like to think of my sisters dancing the mazurka? What's the mazurka? Dancing the mazurka on a day so perfect, the men were frozen to the benches. Shalai, her loon prostitute. There's a lot going on in there, and I cannot unpack it, but hey. Life's Way, I guess. Nice. Mistpredation is a 1-mana blue instant. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn, draw a card. Okay, I mean, you always need some simple cantrips, right? You need some cards that just, they're cheap, they draw you a card, they do a minor effect. They're just relevant for their own sake a lot of the time. Just, yeah, straight up. Alright, I know we have a number of cards that care about, like, that trigger off of instants and sorceries in the previous sets in the block, so yeah, there's precedent. There are two things that I enjoy. Hunting. Oh, wait, no. There are two things that I enjoy hunting. Vessels that can hide in plain sight. And Civis. Okay, now I want to know about both of those things. What does that mean? That doesn't... Tides of Vitu-Ghazi is a 2-mana blue enchantment. As long as your devotion to blue, I don't remember if I kept it or not, but I think there was a card in white that cared about devotion, so it's not... Or was there devotion in a previous set? There might have been. I mean, Gods of Winter probably had devotion in it, right? The AI knows that gods and devotion go together. I don't remember. It's too many cards. As long as your devotion to blue is less than 7, Tides of Vitu-Ghazi doesn't enter the battlefield. What? Until your devotion to blue is less than 7, Tides of Echoes is a blue sorcery you put onto the battlefield. It has tap, add blue. Okay. Okay. This does not work, but I want to talk about, like, the concept. So we're used to seeing the thing that gods have, right? Where it's like, this is a creature, and you play it, and it enters the battlefield as a creature, and then it says, oh, if your devotion is not high enough, this doesn't count as a creature. It's just, like, a permanent that isn't a creature. I think maybe it stays in I think they're usually enchantment creatures, so it's like an enchantment until then or something like that. But it still has the creature type, but the creature type, you understand. This doesn't say it's, like, not an enchantment. It just, like, doesn't enter the battlefield. So I'm like, okay, it has some reminder text. And normally, if the reminder text doesn't have anything to remind you of, it's not useful. But this does have something to remind me of, because I don't know what the heck that means. And it's saying that this means that until your devotion to blue is less than 7, Tides of Echoes is a blue sorcery you put onto the battlefield. So, what does that mean? It says it doesn't enter the battlefield. But then it says it's a sorcery you put onto the battlefield. Which is interesting. The idea of saying, like, hey, this is an enchantment. You cast it as an enchantment. On the stack it says, do you have enough devotion? If not, it doesn't go to the battlefield. Or maybe it, like, hangs out on the stack until your devotion hits and then it lands or something. Like, that doesn't make any sense either, but whatever. Or maybe it just is on the battlefield with no ETB. That could be a thing. But, like, the reminder text implies to me that it sort of, like, becomes a sorcery on the stack. And sorceries cannot enter the battlefield. Instead, they go directly to the graveyard. But it specifically says it becomes a sorcery that you put onto the battlefield. Which makes me wonder, is this a sorcery on the battlefield with tap, add blue, until your devotion hits 7, and then it turns into an enchantment? It, like, exists on the battlefield as an edge case around the sorceries normally can't be. All of this is moot, I should say. It doesn't do anything. It's not, the card doesn't have an enchantment effect anyway. I don't know. I always am interested when the AI comes up with reminder text. And this, like, almost is something. It's almost something. It's almost something. As the currents flowed, the land of Vitu-Ghazi was revealed. All right, let's actually get a real card. I spent too much time talking about that. Wings of Flame, another fire card in blue. 2 mana, blue, enchantment, or at least it's consistent, I guess, right? Like, there's a theme of fire in blue this set. Okay, sure. Maybe we'll have, like, blue flames or something, and it'll be very cool. Wings of Flame is a 2 mana, blue, enchantment aura. Enchant creature. You control enchanted creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has flying. This card's busted. I think I reroll this. I know there's a lot of broken cards in the set, but it's just a permanent, like, steal effect, mind control effect, and it gives it flying? No. No. That's too much. Our own hell is cold, and I don't think we'll want to linger in its fire. Phyrexian Praetor, Words of Zendikar. We haven't seen any, like, almost any Phyrexian. Have we seen any Phyrexian in this set? We might have. I'm a little disappointed how few Phyrexians there's been. I didn't say Phyrexia. I was like, should I say Phyrexian in the name of the set? And I decided not to, and that was probably a bad idea. Body Swallowing Skies. The names are so good, though. 2 mana, blue, enchantment aura. You control enchanted creature. Alright, please have, like, a downside. That would be cool. That would be something. When Body Swallowing Skies enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. Enchanted creature has flying and gets +1/+1 as long as you control a white creature. This is the same card! This is the same... this is the same card! We would like to call the chained, tentacled Demogorgon the Demon Queen of Choking Jellyfish. That would make sense. Mara, Defiance, Bay of the Narwhal. I gotta reroll that. Tempest of Echoes is a 2-mana enchantment aura enchant land. You control enchanted land. Okay, let's talk about this. This card's really good. I don't know if this card's too good. But it is land removal, right? Which we're not doing land removal in this set. That's just a blanket rule I made up one time and I'm trying to stick to it. But what about that one card that did remove? There was it didn't say non-land permanents, it just said destroy a permanent. Yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it. So that's the thing, I guess. It's like, there's already been some fringe land destruction in the set. This isn't technically destroy land, but that's a big swing. Like, you lose a land and I gain a land? I think it's too much. I don't think we can put it in the set. It's a cool card, though. I do want to just appreciate the design. It's very clean. I don't know what the going rate for this should be. Like, I don't know what you should charge for this effect, but it's a cool one. Enchant land, you control enchanted land. You lose a land, I gain a land. That should cost a lot more, I'm sure, but it's cool. I like it. So many ice stalagmites, and yet still I hear no whispers. Elspeth. Dragon's Desire is a 2-mana blue enchantment aura. Enchant creature. You control enchanted creature. What? I mean, I guess... the AI is being very consistent, which is a little bit surprising to me. Whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile Dragon's Desire. If you do, draw 2 cards. Huh. I mean, that's kind of interesting. I'm not going to use this, because, like, again, it's just a 2-mana mind control with upside. But I am interested in this idea of, like, this is a mind control that you could eventually sacrifice the mind control to draw some cards instead of it, and then you give it back. That's a cool idea. I think that's interesting. There's something there, but not for 2 mana. These flames will illuminate even the darkest corners of this forsaken city. Will you burn with us? Zai, City Prophet. Icebound Controlled. Is it another one? It's not. Okay, I read ahead. Icebound Controlled is a 2-mana enchantment aura enchant land. Enchanted land has tap. This land deals 1 damage to you. Okay, this is interesting. This is a useless card and I'm going to reroll. Let's just say that out the back. But, first of all, Icebound Controlled, cool name. Especially for, like, I don't know, a mind control effect. But I'm going to ignore that for right now. Enchants a land. If you enchant your own land with it, it has an alternate tap mode now. Instead of tapping to make mana, it taps to ping you in the face, which is generally bad. If you enchant your opponent's land, your opponent could tap that land to ping themselves in the face. But they wouldn't do that. So if this card was like enchanted land pings its controller whenever it taps, I think that's a real card. I think there's a real card that does that. But that's a cool idea. I'm into that. I think that's fun. That's a fun way of being like, yep, if you tap this land that's really good, you get pinged. Cool. Everyone agrees. I think that's an interesting idea for an effect. I think that already exists, but I still like it. That doesn't mean I don't like it. But that's not what it says. This is an extra ability of tapping, so it's not in addition to whenever it gets tapped. Other than that, Enchant Land has tap, do a thing. I'm into that. The idea of saying you're going to give an additional activated ability to a land. It could just be an enchantment with that ability, but whatever. I don't know. It's a cute design. It doesn't land, but it's cute. The masked enchanters spin thread into a blizzard that kept even the sky frozen. Oh, the flavor text in this set's so good, though. I don't know, just blue ice-themed cards have such good... I mean, go figure, I guess. Fallen Epiphany is a 2-mana blue enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. For blue, return Fallen Epiphany to its owner's hand. I mean, this is just worse than a 2-mana 1/1 that like is it there are 2 mana equipment that gives +1/+1, right? Right? I'm re-rolling it. Too many really cool, powerful cards, and now there's this thing, and it's like... A fool in the temple can teach a scholar in the agora the power of sacred geometry. Alright, we can get this. Dramatic Encounters is a 2-mana blue enchantment. Creatures you control have, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature unless you pay blue. If you do, draw a card. Wait, if you do pay or if you do sacrifice? I think that means if you do sacrifice, right? The beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature unless you pay blue. If you do sacrifice the creature, draw a card. I'm not sure what the correct wording of this is, or like reading of this is, I should say. I don't know if it does what I think it does. I think either way it's interesting. Right? This is a cool effect. You could treachery it to your opponent and just completely, like, wreck them, and that would be funny. You shouldn't do it, like, more than once, but it'd be funny if you did. Otherwise, it is, for every creature you have, you can, at the beginning of your turn, you can sacrifice them to draw a card instead of keeping them around, but if you choose to keep them, you have to pay a tax. That's cool. That's a cool way of, like, getting card advantage. Or, as the alternate interpretation is, if you pay, that's also kind of interesting. You have to pay to keep them around, but you get the benefit of drawing a card. Which is probably too strong. If it's paying the mana is the if you do, it's probably too strong in the idea that, like, you have 3 things on the board, you have attacks of 3 every turn, but you get 3 extra cards. If this was just something like, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this, the enchantment, or pay blue for each creature you have. If you paid the mana, draw a card. That would be an interesting thing too, right? Like, you get 1 extra card draw a turn, but you have to pay attacks. Based on the number of creatures you have. I think, the thing is, I think all interpretations are interesting, and the card is written correctly. So, in contrast to what we saw earlier, where I went, this card's written wrong, do we all agree how it works? This is, the card is written correctly, so it doesn't matter if we all agree. There is a correct reading, right? You can't bring a judge in on a card that's broken, because they'll just tell you it's broken. But you can bring a judge in on a card that is correct. So, I'm going to keep it. It's probably busted, but it also might not be because of the liability of sacrificing your board to it. I think it's cool. I think it's a really cool spell. The Mausoleum was an isolated work of devotion. Not even the Reverend himself was permitted to see it, or even know its purpose. But as time passed, and the ivory statue remained untouched, the dedication of the priests to their work was further inflamed. I don't know what that means. Sleight of Mouth. Wait a minute. I'm gonna keep reading. Sleight of Mouth is a 3-mana blue instant. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Draw a card. Bone Crier? Fist of Ohm? What? You've heard of Sleight of Hand. Alright. This card's fine. I'm gonna move on. This card's fine. Unmask is a 4-mana blue sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, exile that card. It's 4 mana. That's expensive. And it's sorcery speed. But you get to look at their hand, and you get to choose any card other than lands. I mean, and it gets exiled, not discarded. So these are some significant upsides on discard effects that we've seen before in other formats. So, like, okay. Is it still too expensive at 4 mana? I don't know. Probably. But people tell me, like, discard's pretty powerful because it's kind of like, it's like removing a creature before it's even hit the battlefield. But the difference is that your opponent didn't pay for that creature, so I see your point, but I don't know. I think this card has use case. I think Unmask is a good name for it. It's probably too expensive. I think it's okay. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it. The familiar you keep alive serves you, not the other way around. The familiar you that serves you stays alive? I'm not sure what the other way around in that sentence would be, but I do like the point of the familiar you keep alive serves you, right? It's better to have a familiar that's alive than a familiar that's dead. Only one of them could serve you. Fair enough. Good point. I don't know if that has to do with that card. Crystal Quake. That's a great name. Crystal Quake is a 3-mana, 3/3 enchantment creature spirit. When Crystal Quake enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Crystal Quake leaves the battlefield. That permanent returns under its owner's control. Great. Okay. 3-mana, 3/3 that has a jailer effect. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Are there better versions of this effect? Yes. Are they enchantment creature spirits named Crystal Quake? No. Let it roll. What does it want to roll over? Tazalor, Sphinx Musketeer. Wait. I did not give that enough attention. Sphinx Musketeer? Oh, I want to know about them. What? Sight Unseen. Is that a real Magic card? That sounds familiar. Sight Unseen is a 6-mana blue sorcery. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. That is way too expensive for that effect. I'm gonna re-roll this. Before my corpse can be thrown to my feet, I would rather my skeletal remains be taken by an erstwhile apprentice. Ragnaros, as quoted in The Final Judgment. Alright, sure. Rime Wind Strike. That's a great name for a sorcery. Rime Wind Strike is a 6-mana blue sorcery. You may tap or untap target permanent. Storm. When you cast this spell, copy it for each spell cast before this turn. Okay, I know Storm is broken. We all agree that Storm is broken. So, is 6 mana for this effect actually too expensive? I don't know. So, if you don't know, Storm, yeah, I should probably read the reminder text just in case it gets it wrong. When you cast the spell, copy it for each spell you cast before it this turn. Did I already read that? I might have already read that. Either way, that's Storm. Well-known, broken mechanic. You could chain together a whole bunch of spells, like 1-mana spells that draw a card, as we've seen. Do that a whole bunch, then play something at the end and just do a ridiculous amount of damage. Because you're like, alright, Storm count is 5, so the Rime Wind is gonna tap, 6 things? Is that how that works? Does it count when you cast the spell, copy for each spell cast before it? Okay, so you get its effect, and then you also get the 5 additional ones. So, there's that. But you may tap or untap target permanent. I just don't know if that's good enough. Okay, you can storm off, but what's your end goal? I guess the thing is that they're all different spells, technically. So you could be like, I'm going to untap target permanent 6 times in a row, and between each of those storm triggers, you could say, I tap this thing. Like instant speed, I'm going to tap it to activate an effect of the creature. and then it untaps, and then. Actually, let's just analyze it from a mana value standpoint, right? Can you go infinite mana wise with this? Because you could say, I'm going to tap, 6 lands, to cast this spell. I'm going to untap one of those lands. Then I'm going to tap that land to float a blue mana. Then we storm off however many times we've had the things. I mean, you're just generating your 6 mana back. You're not doing anything. I don't... On the one hand, if it's broken, maybe we don't want it. Storm's an annoying mechanic that's just, like, really frustrating because you have to keep track of how many times you cast a spell. It's an annoying mechanic. On the other hand, it might not even be good enough. I say either way, let's reroll it. The wolf howled a warning as the figure strode across the snow. Its blade and fist, the tool of war, rose up, blood spilling from the blade as it descended. Oh well, what a shame. That didn't even have anything to do with the effect of the card. Intangible Virtue is a 6-mana blue sorcery. You draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is twice the number of mountains you control. Aha! 6 mana, 2 of which has to be blue. Let's assume you cast this on turn 6, and you have 4 mountains and 2 islands. Let's just assume that's the situation. You draw 4 cards and you lose 4 life, and it costs you 6 mana. Is that good? I don't think it's very good. It's also an extremely specific situation, because, like, I mean, sometimes you're gonna run blue, red, sure. I just don't know if blue-red wants this, like, big 6 mana draw spell. Where is the grace of righteousness? Where is the spirit of peace? Where is wisdom? Also, it just has this big downside of taking damage, right? So even if you could do something weird where you're like, I'm going to play this like weird sort of blue-red control until the late game, and then I'm going to draw like 8 cards, and then you just do 8 damage to yourself when you die, it's just like, I want to keep this card because it's an interesting effect. It is the kind of thing that would be fun to build around because you're like, ooh, that's something I wasn't planning to ever make a deck about, right? Like, the idea of making a blue-red deck that wants to cast a 6-mana spell that gets stronger for more mountains you have isn't something that I think about doing ever, right? It's just like, that's not something I've wanted to do before. And on that grounds, it's like, oh, yeah, that's a cool idea. Why not do that? So even if it's not good enough, it's the kind of thing that would be fun to build around, and maybe there's a point when it becomes good enough. And that one game where it does something cool is, like, enough. But then the damage comes in. Like, you're losing so much life that I don't know, even if you're able to activate it in a way that makes it impressive, you just hurt yourself. I'm gonna keep it. I don't think it's good. Where is the great... Did I read this? Where's the grace of righteousness? Where's the spirit of peace? Where is wisdom? I think I read that already. I don't know. Is it Guildmage? That's gotta be a card, right? There's gotta be a card called Is It Guildmage? Again, is red-blue. Aha! It's red-blue guild in Ravnica. 2 mana, blue, star 1, bird wizard. It has flying. Is it Guildmage's power is equal to the number of lands you control? I love this card. This card's great. This is totally... Yeah. The worst thing about Rising in Is It Society is knowing that it's only a matter of time before your rivals overtake you. Aw. I'm into this. Is it Guildmage, Bird Wizard, flying, scales based on lands? Some of those lands could even be mountains. So stupid. Oh, excellent. Rime-Rot Demagogue is a 7 mana blue 5/5 Phyrexian horror with flash. Okay. Saving 7 mana to flash in a 5/5 is very funny, but sure, why not? It's always an upside. 3 mana, activated ability. Target creature can't block this turn. Okay, that's pretty good. 2 mana, activated ability. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Huh. It's a very good body. Yeah. I like it. I mean, I hear people actually talk about, like, real Magic who actually know things about real Magic. And they talk all the time about how, like, it's really hard to make a 7 mana creature feel good enough. It's very difficult. And I don't know if this is, but it's a lot of stats. Like, 5/5, 2 very powerful activated abilities. Would you? Like, at 5 mana, I think this is too strong. At 6 mana, probably still too strong. At 7 mana, might not be strong enough, right? And, like, that's the weird thing about 7 mana. It's just 7 mana is so hard to do. So usually when I evaluate 7 mana, I say either, like, is it so strong that 7 mana is too low? Or is it too weak that I wouldn't want to cheat it out, right? If I could cheat this out, would I be happy with the result? Yeah, I would be. I'd love to cheat this out. That would be super fun. And that's what I'm all about. So, but I don't think it would be too strong cheated out either. Like, I think it's in a very good spot for 7 mana, actually. I'm very, very pleased with the way this card turned out. He has sold the bodies of the weak and turned the spirits of the great into puppets. This card's great. Really evocative, too. Rime-Rot Demagogue. Yeah. Phyrexian horror? I was just saying we need more Phyrexians. This is great. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Nomad Nomads is a 2 mana 1/3 creature spirit, tap, add blue or black. This card's not exciting, but is quite good. It is a spirit, which sometimes matters. It's 2 mana, not 1 mana. We saw earlier was a 1 mana that tapped for 2 different colors, but it's not a 1/1, it's a 1/3. Yeah, this card's great. Nomads understand the unfathomable riddle of existence, seeing past its finitude, its finiteness, finality, to the hidden infinity. Nomads understand the unfathomable riddles of existence, seeing past its finality to the hidden infinity. Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm into it. That's great. Hero of Ash is a 5 mana blue 2/4 enchantment creature spirit. Whenever you gain life, create a 2/2 blue illusion creature token. Okay, for 5 mana, 5 mana is a bit expensive, but we haven't seen any life gain payoff in this set yet. The block as a whole has a lot of life gain and a lot of life gain payoff, but I don't think we've seen any in this set. I don't think there's any in blue. So, or sorry, wasn't any in white. So seeing it here in blue is cool. I like the payout. I think that an illusion creature is fun. That's a fun little reward for gaining life. That could really swarm the board fast. So the fact that it's 5 mana, as much as that seems expensive, probably is perfectly balanced. Like, any cheaper, and this is going to just explode really early in a game. So, and if you're playing like a control blue deck, you probably have time to wait until like later in the game, then play this 5/5 and then heal a bunch. That's some of my favorite ways of like playing blue, is like to get really low in life and not lose, and then like recover. So that'd be kind of fun. I don't know if I've ever actually done it with like healing. I think usually I just get really low and then hopefully I don't die and I kill them. But Yeah, sure. Throw some healing in there so that you don't die during your control. And then late game, if you still have any healing left, you get extra tutus. Yeah, I think that's fun. I think it's really cool. The disapproving whispers of a society forgotten and the hollow calls of a greater void. I feel like I should have said something about that, but I didn't, so here we are. Cinder Wounds is a 1-mana blue enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -1/-1. Nah, it's boring. I mean, you're trying to make a 1-mana enchantment, so understandably that maybe it's going to be kind of weird to hit the power level on it, but I mean, I guess that's the question. Like, not everything needs to be exciting, right? But I think this is just too weak regardless. You're too much like me, elves. Too cool. Oh, wait, no, it says cold. It's funnier the way I said it. Avram Shadow Mage. Inspiring Greeting is a 1-mana blue enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. At the beginning of your upkeep, at the beginning of the upkeep of enchanted creature's controller, that player may pay blue. If the player does, they may search their library for a creature card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Oh! Yeah, okay, just a casual, like, I'm gonna play this. I mean, this is actually kind of interesting. This card's busted. Like, this card's super busted. We can all tell it's super busted. But, like, there's an interesting analysis of, like, turn 1, I play a creature. Turn 2, I play Inspiring Greeting. Before turn 3 happens, they kill my 1/1. Because that's all I was able to play on turn 1. Like, they ping it with 1 damage, and it's not even a big loss for my opponent, and then I lose 2 things, right? I'm giving my opponent a 2-for-1. That said, if they don't pay it, like, you just completely destroy them. Like, it's the problem with this card isn't that there's no counterplay, it's that either your opponent completely negates the card instantly, or they lose instantly because you suddenly have an Ulamog, right? Like, there's no middle ground here. So, yeah, no, I'm not keeping this. It's cool. I wonder what do you think you should charge for this spell? Because the effect is cool. I like the effect. How much mana should this card cost? Let me know in the comments. When it feels brave enough to hold out its arms to welcome visitors, its little hands break off and join the snowy plumes. What? What does that mean? Acidic Soil is a 1-mana blue enchantment aura. Enchant land. That's a good name. Okay. Enchanted land has tap, add 1 mana of any color. Huh. I don't know why Acidic Soil does that. I kind of would... It would be more fun if this was like you enchant your opponents and then they... Whenever they produce mana, they produce like colorless instead or something. Like, wouldn't be that useful, honestly. I think this is a better effect. This card's great, honestly. This is a good card. If you need mana fixing, this is a decent mana fix. Is it amazing? No, you probably could get like a mana rock that does the same thing, but yeah, it's cool. Especially, you know, in limited. The touch of Phyrexian mists upon a moldy dung heap is known to infect a delicate delicacy. Oh, I see what you're putting down. It's a Phyrexian infesting thing that has... It produces any mana, but it's also corrupted. Okay, alright, sure. Yeah, that works. That works. Orzhov Guildmage is a 4-mana blue 2/2 creature spirit. When Orzhov Guildmage enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. Great. For 2 mana, activate an ability, draw a card, then discard a card. This card's cool. I don't know how much it should cost. It is a 4-mana 2/2, but ETB gain 3 life. That's nothing to sneeze at, especially with life gain payoff. And an activated ability that, while it doesn't draw you a card, it draws you and then discards. That's still useful. It fills your discard pile if you care about that. And it lets you select better cards. Yeah, I always undervalue that effect, so I think this card's pretty good. We're seeing another Guild Mage, though, actually, I just realized. So we saw Izzet Guild Mage, which is blue-red, and now we're seeing Urza Guild Mage, which is black-white, but whatever, that's fine. As a minor figure in the underworld, he became my sole support in these hellish waters. Soren Markov, Guildmaster of Urza. Wait, we already saw a Soren Markov card. What card was that? That had Soren Markov in the flavor text. Soren Markov is getting around in this set, it turns out. Okay. Satyr Delver is a 1-mana, 1/1 fairy rogue. I'm kind of into that. I don't know. Is Satyr its own type in Magic? I know there are Satyrs in Magic, so they might be their own type. But, and even if they aren't their own type, I'm sure they're not fairies, but I'm kind of into that. Like, Satyr are often considered to be fey creatures, so why not? Why don't they count as fairies? That seems reasonable. Satyr Delver is a 1-mana, 1/1 fairy rogue with flying. When Satyr Delver enters the battlefield, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Okay, we're seeing a lot of cheat out effects, and while I love cheat out effects, that's very strong. Now, it's not repeatable, and it is from your hand, which means, you know, it's costing you, if you go from your deck or from your graveyard, that's potentially stronger than your hand, because you still have those cards in your hand you can play. On the other hand, you didn't have to get them into your graveyard, so maybe it's better to have them in your hand. So, Either way, 1 mana, I'm not allowing it. This card's busted. You thought a shard of ice from her nest would slow her? Nope. Satyr Delver's horns just tweaked her wings. This card's cool. I like it. Stalking Karoo. Is that a thing? I've never heard the term Karoo before. At first I thought it said kangaroo, and I was very excited, but it doesn't. It just says Karoo. That might be a Magic term. I don't know it. I'll have to look it up later. Stalking Karoo is a 1-mana, 1/1 blue snake shaman with haste. For 2 mana and tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Okay. Huh. So once again, we're seeing spend 2 mana, tap, draw a card, discard a card. It's a useful effect. I like that. I'm fine with that. The fact that it has haste means you could spend 3 mana and do it the turn it comes into the battlefield, which is cool. Otherwise, not really relevant. I'm kind of into, like, you see this a lot where haste is associated with red, but I like the idea of blue having haste when the bodies don't matter. And you see this sometimes, where it's like, oh yeah, this thing has haste, and the expectation is that you're never gonna, like, attack with it. It's like a 0/1, but it has a cool activated ability. And I think that's fun. I think it's a cool way of doing, like, using the same keyword and having it have a different feel in a different color, because it's focused on a different aspect of the card. In this desolate landscape, I fear we'll never see a way home. Karn, High Priest of Shiv. Alright. Seems right. Nivik's Mentor is a... It's a Vidalkin Wizard! Yeah! Nivik's Mentor is a 3-mana, 2/1 Vidalkin Wizard. Tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Okay, we're seeing a lot of looting effects now, which is fine. It's a good effect. I don't have a problem with it. This is 3 mana instead of the other one, which is 1 mana, but it doesn't have a cost, it just has to tap. Okay, yeah. I mean, like we said, you could spend 3 mana on the other one, have it enter the battlefield, tap immediately because it has haste, and do the thing. Whereas this is 3 mana, you have to wait a turn, but then there's no tax, and you can do it every turn from there off. And it's a slightly bigger body. I like it. I think it works. The Ebon Wizard Vadrock still echoes in his crystallized skull. The memory of his insights burns in Nivik's thoughts, driving his desire to better the world. That's pretty cool. It's so funny that it's actually one of them. That's so good. Anointed Librarian. That is such a good name. I don't know. Librarian is just like one of my favorite, just like random job words that just like is always so evocative to me. I don't know. It's because you're a big nerd. Yeah, I guess. Anointed Librarian is a 5-mana 2/3 enchantment creature gargoyle with flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. Okay, this is weird. This is the second card we saw in blue that impulse draws. Right, that's the community term for drawing a card into exile, and then you may cast it, but at the end of the turn it goes away. It's cool. It's weird to see it in blue, because that's something that we see in red a lot. But, which again, like, this is AI Magic. I'm commenting on it because I think it's interesting, but, like, it's expected that we're not going to hit the color pie right. That's fine. But I just feel like it's, I don't know, whatever. She embodies a dragon's curse. Yeah, I like this card. 5 mana for a 2/3 with flying. Not very good, but, like, it's got flying. That's helpful, always. But then also, it doesn't draw you a card every turn, but it does draw you, like, kind of half a card, right? It draws you a card. If you can play it, great. It drew you a card. If you can't play it, then it goes away. And that's something that blue doesn't want, right? Red is the fast, aggressive color that you impulse something, you play it immediately, and you're happy with it. And blue oftentimes wants to be the slower color that says, I'm going to play something at instant speed on your turn, so I don't want this effect, right? I'm not playing things on my turn. That said, my style of playing blue is playing stuff on my turn. So I'm into this card. I think it's fun. And I just, like, evocatively, I think it's cool. Anointed Librarian. This is a big, like, gargoyle. Like, are they, like... Is this, like, a librarian that, like, maybe they... Anointed is a weird word. Like, I feel like maybe there's a more specific meaning, but when I think of anointed, I just think of, like, someone put oil on your forehead. Is that right? I don't know what I'm saying. But the idea of, like, there was a process and this librarian, like, turned into a gargoyle, that's interesting. The idea that they just are a gargoyle and they're like, hello, I'm the librarian. That's also interesting to me. I like both of those. I like this card. This card's cool. That actually brings us to the end of the blue cards. I think we got some cool stuff, and I've already been going for like an hour, I think over an hour. Do I want to push it into black? I don't know, I haven't decided.